We skirted the factory grounds as Sekhmet chewed up trucks and blasted huge swaths out of the parking lot to sand. "I hate this plan," Sadie grumbled. "Just keep her occupied for a few seconds," I said, "and don't die." "Yeah, that's the hard bit, isn't it?" "1," I counted, "2, 3. Sadie burst into the open and used her favorite spell. "Ha-dee!" The glyphs blazed over Sekhmet's head, and everything around her exploded. Trucks burst to pieces. The air shimmered with energy. The ground heaved upward, creating a crater 50 feet deep into which the lioness tumbled. It was pretty impressive, but I didn't have time to admire Sadie's work. I turned into a falcon and launched myself towards the salsa trucks. Gah! Sekhmet leapt out of the crater and breathed desert wind in Sadie's direction, but Sadie was long gone. She ran sideways, ducking behind trailers and releasing a few links of magical rope as she fled. The ropes whipped through the air and tried to tie themselves around the lioness's mouth. They failed, of course, but they did annoy the destroyer. "Show yourself!" Sekhmet bellowed. "I will feast on your flesh!" Perched on a silo, I concentrated all my power and turned straight from falcon to avatar. My glowing form was so heavy its feet sank into the top of the tank. "Sekhmet!" I yelled. The lioness whirled and snarled, trying to locate my voice. "Up here, kitty!" I called. She spotted me and her ears went back. "Horace?" "Unless you know another guy with a falcon head." She padded back and forth uncertainly, then roared in challenge. "Why do you speak to me when I am in my raging form? You know I must destroy everything in my path, even you." "If you must," I said, "but first, you might like to feast on the blood of your enemies." I drove my sword into the tank, and salsa gushed out in a chunky red waterfall. I leapt to the next tank and sliced it open, and again, until 6 silofuls of magic salsa were spewing into the parking lot. "Ha ha ha ha!" Sekhmet loved it. She leapt into the red sauce torrent, rolling in it, lapping it up. "Blood! Lovely blood!" Yeah, apparently lions aren't too bright, or their taste buds aren't very developed, because Sekhmet didn't stop until her belly was bulging and her mouth literally began to smoke. "Tangy," she said, stumbling and blinking. "But my eyes hurt. What kind of blood is this? Nubian? Persian?" "Jalapeno," I said. "Try some more. It gets better." Her ears were smoking now, too, as she tried to drink more. Her eyes watered, and she began to stagger. Steam curled from her mouth. Hot mouth. "Milk is good for that," I suggested. "Maybe if you were a cow." "Trick!" Sekhmet growled. You tricked!" But her eyes were too heavy. She turned in a circle and collapsed, curling into a ball. Her form twitched and shimmered as her red armor melted into spots her golden skin, until I was looking down at an enormous sleeping cow. I dropped off the silo and stepped carefully around the sleeping goddess. She was making cow snoring sounds, like moos, moos. I waved my hand in front of her face, and when I was convinced she was out cold, I dispelled my avatar. Sadie and Zia emerged from behind a trailer. "Well," said Sadie, "that was different." "I will never eat salsa again," I decided. "You both did wonderfully," Zia said, "but your boat is burned. How do we get to Phoenix?" "We?" Sadie said. "I don't recall inviting you." Zia's face turned salsa red. "Surely you don't still think I led you into a trap?" "I don't know," Sadie said. "Did you?" I couldn't believe I was hearing this. "Sadie!" My voice sounded dangerously angry, even to myself. "Lay off! Zia summoned that pillar of fire thing. She sacrificed her magic to save us, and she told us how to beat the lioness. We need her." Sadie stared at me. She glanced back and forth between Zia and me, probably trying to judge how far she could push things. "Fine!" She crossed her arms and pouted. "But we need to find Amos first." "No," Zia said. "That would be a very bad idea." "Oh, so we can trust you, but not Amos?" Zia hesitated. I got the feeling that was exactly what she meant, but she decided to try a different approach. "Amos would not want you to wait. He said to keep going, didn't he? If he survives Sekhmet, he will find a way to help us on the road. If not—" Sadie huffed. "So how do we get to Phoenix? Walk?" I gazed across the parking lot, where one 16-wheeler was still intact. Maybe we don't have to. I took off the linen coat I borrowed from Amos's supply locker. Sia, Amos had a way of animating his coat so it could steer the boat. Do you know the spell? She nodded. It's fairly simple with the right ingredients. I could do it if I had my magic. Can you teach me? She pursed her lips. The hardest part is the figurine. The first time you enchant that piece of clothing, you'll need to make a shabadi into the fabric and speak a binding charm to meld them together. It would require a clay or wax figure that has already been imbued with a spirit. Sadie and I looked at each other and simultaneously said, Doughboy.